Men, why do you often say you're fine even when you're not? Because if I tell you I'm not fine, it inexplicably somehow turns into me trying to comfort and reassure you. No, it's not because of you. No, I'm not mad that you thought this was all about you. Well, you shouldn't feel guilty. I'm sorry you're upset now. Of course, I still love you. I'm sorry for upsetting you, honey. No, I promise I'm fine. Everything is perfect. Anything I say can and will be used me in the court of an argument, manipulation, or other emotionally harmful ways. Also, no one gives a damn. I hide both physical and emotional pain because I've always done it. Hardest to hide was a broken hand that was swollen like a grapefruit because I thought it was nothing and I'm American and didn't want to pay for it. Or, on rare occasion, I am actually genuinely just fine. Not happy, not angry, not sad, just fine. Evidence of me not being fine will be used against me. Setting doesn't matter in my experience. One of my grandparents died during high school. I was very close with them. A year later, I was still not doing great, and the other kids were calling me an emo wuss to my face, and two of my teachers yelled at me to move on and participate in class. I was still doing great in school, just didn't care to engage with others much. In grad school for the health field, a close family member had a serious health condition, and I thought they were going to die, so I tried working remote. This was years before COVID, but it was fine. Yes, my work quality suffered, but was still generally good. It amounted to an extra round or two of edits on papers. I thought we were good since they stressed balance and mental health since we are in the health field. Well, someone didn't like it and wanted me in the office. The chair rolled their eyes at me and said, "If you can't handle your personal problems, I don't think a career in research is for you. Do you even want to be here?" What is especially infuriating about my grad school experience is that a student had free rein to take a few weeks off after her cat died. I have more stories like the above. Damn near every man I know has, and it sucks. Having people not give a shit would be an improvement. My best friend I served in Iraq with killed himself. I cried every night. My fiancée complained I don't ask for help. I asked her to sit with me. She told me she knows I just sit out there and cry. She needs to prioritize sleep. I mentioned that I struggle with this specific thing because of an incident in Iraq that involved children. She responded, "They were kids on the opposite side, so why should it impact you?" I mentioned I struggle with sleep because of PTSD, and she dropped to her knees and clasped her hands and began shouting, "Oh, my PTSD, oh please, my PTSD." This was the first and last time I mentioned PTSD in our relationship. I tried to explain my needs to her, and her response was, "We aren't discussing your needs until all mine are met." So, while some women may not be on this extreme, all women are on this wavelength. As men, we can be seen as your protector and desired, or as something vulnerable and discarded. We have to pick whether we want a relationship or a confidant. I have learned a woman can't be my confidant. Men need to confide in men and let women dance in their field of emotional immaturity and bliss. Two things. First, women and men talk about their problems for different reasons, and it's terrible how the two don't translate. Women just want the men to listen. Men are generally solution-oriented, and that's what they're looking for. Both are fine, they just don't translate. Second, women don't actually want to hear men be vulnerable for the most part. Not all women, but for the most part, showing weakness is unattractive to women, and we know that. For the most part, men are only going to talk to their mother, if that. This is also a bed that men have made, though, so to a large degree, we've got to lay in it. While a lot of the comments here are brutal, and in some cases my concern is warranted, often some things I think about are, it's the end of the day, I'm exhausted and just want to get to sleep, I'm not ready for a lengthy discussion. I'm still figuring out how to concisely express what's bothering me. When it involves an issue with someone else, wording is absolutely critical, so I may need more time to be able to accurately express my feelings. I think my second point has some overlap with other sentiment of what I say can be used against me. Annoyingly, when having a conversation and when you try and express I am not fine but I'm not ready to discuss it right now, that leads to conversations where the other person is trying to drag it out of me, which isn't particularly helpful either, but is a completely fair reaction. 1. We can't fix it. You can't fix it. I can't fix it. Whatever it is, we don't have the means, knowledge, experience, or connections to fix the problem. 2. We don't want to cause ripples. By saying we are not fine, it opens the door to us venting potentially unwanted insight into our mental state. Insight that could harm your perception of us, kill the mood or vibe about us, cause people to view us differently, and isolate us from the few social connections we have. 3. You don't need ammo. Very often, almost comically often, when we do open up about how not fine we are, women will remember it and use it as a metaphorical low blow in an argument. Don't say, "I would never. That's so mean. I can't believe you think I'd do that." Because you do. You always do. So to save us all the trouble and keep things par for the course, we are fine. In my experience, giving voice to my problems invites others to examine my life and try to figure out why they are my own fault. If only I was more like them, I would not have these problems. If my friends suck, I just need to go to FriendMart and get new ones. If my job sucks, I need to go get one of those $140K a year jobs off the top shelf at JobMart. If my health is bad, it's because I drink milk, don't drink milk, eat meat, don't eat meat, drink coffee, drink tea, eat sugar, eat aspartame, am on a keto diet, etc. If I'm depressed, I need to cheer up or exercise more or clean the house or sunbathe. If I'm fat, it's because I lack willpower and sneak out when no one is looking to snarf down 2 large Pizza Hut pies a day. If I'm skinny, it's because I lack willpower and give in to societal pressure to starve myself or purge after eating. Lack of energy is just me being lazy. Why would I be sick? They've not been sick a day in the last 20 years, except the 4 times a year they're forgetting about. They just think it, and they don't get sick. I must not be thinking well thoughts hard enough. Don't worry about dying. I'll go to a better place if I've been a good person. I so hate people right now. Because society doesn't care, to be honest. We are taught to handle our own issues, or suffer through them, or else we are weak. Weak to society, to romantic interests, weak as a person. So everything is fine. When I say it to people, it's because I know I'll figure out and make things fine, even if they aren't. Men have very few emotional resources, and even among those, most are fragile for one reason or another. It's best to just be fine until you break. Edit. For what it's worth, I tell other people everything will be fine too when they're hurting, because I believe in them. Believe they're strong, smart, or that the problems are temporary and will fade even if they hurt now. It seems most men in here feel the same way. They feel that no one actually cares to listen. As a curious outsider, a woman, do you men care about each other? If you think a fellow male friend, family member, or coworker is having a hard time, do you care? Do you feel a pang of empathy and a desire to listen or be there for your male friends? Genuinely asking. If most men don't share their feelings because no one cares or wants to hear it, I am curious about the inverse. Does anyone in this thread feel empathy for other men and a desire to listen to them? If so, I wonder if everyone here is mostly being affected by toxic femininity in their lives and would actually benefit from talking to their male friends about their emotions instead of talking to women in their lives. Again, genuinely asking. Almost always, because if you say anything other than fine or good, it doesn't usually result in a positive conversation. Most people don't want to be emotionally dumped on, and society tends to expect us to keep our chin up. I still haven't figured out how to properly deal with my negative emotions, and it's killing me, frankly. Yes, I'm going to therapy. The American medical system treats symptoms, not causes, so I'm stuck with talking to someone who is just punching the clock and letting me go on about myself. I doubt they really care, and I don't blame them. They're doing their job. I'm not terribly interested in taking psychotropic drugs and further empowering Big Pharma. Are there plenty of ways for me to improve myself and self-treat? Certainly. It's my fault for not having the willpower to conquer my fears and quit nicotine, soda, and cut back on screen time, among other things. Really, I'm just extremely lonely. I was a NICU baby, and despite having a childhood that, on paper, was quite good, I have become aware of just how dysfunctional my brain is, and it makes every little thing into a struggle when it doesn't have to be. My emotions gyrate wildly. I'm extremely self-involved and have a hard time paying attention to anything that I'm not extremely interested in. I hope I can get out of my own head someday. Some days it's very nice in here, other days not so much. I'm fine. Because people don't care if you are a man with problems, they just don't. Only certain things get a pass from what I've seen. But barring those, opening your problems to others just gives others ammunition to use against you. Humans are odd in the sense that for whatever reason we follow a hierarchy both men and women do. However, men's hierarchy is based a lot differently on things like dominance, pride, ego, and having a chink in any one of these proverbial armors and people lower your value in the hierarchy. That's why talking about your problems as a man is not advisable due to society confusing that with a chink in the armor that is considered masculinity, which comprises the things that men are judged on, with the examples of my earlier armor example. Most of us are just dealing with a down moment that we know we'll get over soon enough, so we just need to ride it out. Other times it's because people will tell you at work or any other time that isn't convenient to speak, so "we're fine" signals we don't want to talk about it at the moment. The other times we say "we're fine" is because we don't want to talk about it because we don't want to be a distraction to others, and or we know people don't take male grief seriously. You'll get told by all sorts of people that you need to get tough, or you're being a little bitch and exaggerating your problems. Everyone is at a different level in their growth and development, so a word of encouragement or just support or sympathy can actually lift our spirits because we often feel alone and lost. So knowing other people care or are willing to offer support is the reassurance we need when we are feeling extra down. You know why. Or you're like 12. Nobody cares, listens, and the rare time they do, it's turned into something it's not, or held against us later. Opening up isn't worth it for most men. Whatever it is, will either work itself out, or will adapt and it won't show anymore. Bringing you into it is just asking for trouble or misunderstanding. It doesn't take too many times of being vulnerable and hurt because of it before we stop being vulnerable at all. People don't care about men. Women don't. Men don't. We're alone. And absolutely nobody cares. You'll say you do, but just look at the comments. You're going to see thousands of men say the same exact thing. That much anecdotal evidence sure starts to look like a rule, not an exception. I have cried in front of some of my customers without hesitation. One of my clearest memories is of opening up to a bartender friend who asked me how I was by saying shitty, and 5+ years later, I'm afraid she wants to give up our romantic relationship mainly because she's in a great financial spot, and I'm in a really shitty one, based on how her messages have changed in the last few weeks. I'm not afraid to tell others when I'm not fine. I like to do it knowing other men are afraid to do so. I can absolutely understand why many men are afraid to do so, though. I also don't think this is a problem specific to men. Just like the general public forgets once-in-a-lifetime events in days or weeks, most of us struggle to remember our friends surrounding us. IMO fuck capitalism.